a great job entering their name, their school, and their email address in the chat box. And please feel free to turn on your camera. And now it is 9:03 and we are going to get started. Once again, welcome. You are attending a review of the bookkeeping requirements for the school meals program. And next slide. And your presenters today are myself. My name is Sean Vondracek. I'm joined by Donna Hadley and Erica Arter from Nutrition Services. And we are lucky to have Rebecca Havakin, our office associate. She is navigating our Zoom today. So this is who you will be hearing from during the presentation today. We are program specialists with Nutrition Services, and we work with the school meals program and also the summer food service program. Next slide. So some housekeeping, which I've been reminding you of, that we would like you to enter your name, your school, and your email address in the chat box. And we ask that you use the chat box to ask your questions. We're going to be covering a lot of information today in the 3 hours we have. And we want to make sure that we answer your questions. And as you have a question, as we present the information, please feel free to enter that question in the chat box. We have 2 planned short breaks during the presentation today for you to stand, stretch, and take care of yourself. And then we will also be addressing some of the questions in the chat box during those short breaks. And Becky is muting you during the presentation, but please feel free to unmute yourself when it's time for question and answers if you'd like to. Next slide. You should have, if you're on the Zoom today, you have received the slide deck and handouts. And those are great to take notes on if you were able to print them. We will be talking about the handouts as we review the slides. And just wanted to mention, if you are unfamiliar with the Nutrition Services website, I highly recommend that you become familiar with it because it's a great resource for more information on any of the topics that we will be discussing today. So let's go ahead and start off with a polling question because we want to know who's in our audience. So the polling question is, are you new to the responsibilities of the school meals record keeping? So the first response is yes, I have not received training prior to today. I am so new, I don't know anything. Yes, I'm new, but I was trained by the previous school meals bookkeeper. Or no, I've been doing this program forever. It's been an interesting 16, 18 months, but no, I'm familiar with the program. Or no, I'm not new. I've been doing it for 1 to 3 years. So Becky, would you launch the polling question? Thank you. So please go ahead and respond. Oh, great. Thank you for those of you that are entering it into the chat box. If you're unable to do the polling question, thanks for responding via the chat box. And Becky, how are we doing on responses?
We have 191 out of 220.
Okay.
Want me to go ahead and end?
I think so. Let's just see what those responses are. Oh my gosh, 54% of our audience has been doing this for a long time. Well, thank you for attending today, and thank you for all the hard work you have put in over the years. And for those, we have 22% that have been doing it 1 to 3 years. So our audience has experience. That's wonderful. And we do have 15% of our audience that is brand new. And so this is all new information. So thank you for answering our polling question. So that gives us an idea of where everybody's at with their knowledge level. So let's move on to the next slide. And so for those folks that are new to the school meals program, the focus today is going to be on what you need to know for the upcoming school year 21-22. Because many of you know that are experienced, we have not been operating normally for a while. Last year was not a normal school year. And this coming year is much more normal, but it is still not the traditional school meals program year. So we're going to be talking about those specific things you need to know for the upcoming school year. And as an added resource for those of you that are new, there's additional training videos that can be found on the Nutrition Services website. And the link is on the slide. And if you go to the school meals program, click on training, you will find additional training for bookkeepers. And Becky, the next slide shows what that training is. It's divided up into different parts, and I would suggest sometime that you view that training if you are new, because it discusses operations during a more normal school year than what we anticipate in 2021 or 21-22. I'm sorry, we're headed into this school year. Next slide. So I've mentioned our website, and our website is a great resource of information. So when you enter our website, you would click on the school meals program, and there's information about each of the topics that are listed on the left-hand side of the screen. And there's more specific information about each one of these programs. And we would have you at training for 2 days, probably, to cover every specific program that we administer. But we have you for 3 hours today. And so we are going to be highlighting those most important things that you need to know to get started for school year 21-22. So next slide. So for those of you that are brand new, you don't have a reference point to what happened back in school year 2021. But for about 75% of our audience that have experience in the school meals program, you do have that experience of what happened back in school year 2021. It was anything but a normal school year, and it required a lot of flexibility and innovation as we rolled through the school year with grab-and-go meals, social distancing, masks, offering free meals to all students, meals at no charge to all students. We dealt with remote learners, how to feed those folks. It was a very interesting year. And so that's behind us. And we are moving forward into school year 21-22. And so next slide, Becky. What we want to talk about today and bring your attention to is those USDA waivers that will be impacting school year 21-22, because USDA has issued waivers. We are going to be talking about important program operations and requirements. And at the end of the presentation, we are going to be covering the income eligibility process, which is the approval of the free and reduced applications, direct certification. So many of you are very familiar with that process, and that process hasn't changed. And so that'll be at the end of the presentation. So let's get started with the USDA waivers that were released in April. On April 20th, the USDA released new and extended waivers to address program operation flexibilities for the start of the new school year in August. So we've got new waivers that go into place when school starts in 21-22. And these are nationwide waivers, which means they're extended throughout the nation. They're not specific to Nebraska. They're nationwide waivers that apply to all school food authorities. And in today's presentation, we will be talking about SFAs. We use a lot of abbreviations when we talk in the school meals program, and that's a term that you will want to be familiar with. Is a school food authority is the school or the agency that participates in the program. So the school food authority administers the program. So our SFAs can all utilize these nationwide waivers. It doesn't require a separate application because they're nationwide waivers. Now, there's a link to these specific waivers on the Nutrition Services website, and that link is on the slide. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with waivers because we had a lot of waivers that allowed a lot of flexibility. But the new waivers that were issued, and many were extended, address continued flexibilities for the upcoming school year. And so it's USDA's way of transitioning us back to a more normal school year, still taking into account we are in a pandemic and things can change. But as it appears now, we are transitioning back to a more normal learning environment. And with that, that means a more normal food service that operates in our schools. So next slide. So what do you need to know for school year 21-22? Well, probably the most important thing is to know that if you operated the summer food service program last year through a waiver that was extended by USDA, that waiver is no longer in effect. That was not extended. That waiver is ending. So it will not be in place for the start of school year 21-22. But what you do need to know is that school food authorities, SFAs, may offer to all enrolled students free meals if they participate in a program called the Seamless Summer Option. Now, the Seamless Summer Option is really not a separate program. It is a program that is under the school meals program. And if you would like to read more about that, it is, there's more information that can be found in waiver number 85 that was issued from USDA. So this is wonderful news. For schools that choose to participate in the Seamless Summer Option under the school meals program, all students, all enrolled students can receive free meals or meals at no charge. So with that, USDA also issued another waiver that says all of the seamless summer meals can be reimbursed at the highest summer food service program rate. So students can be offered free meals at no charge, and the school can receive reimbursement for those meals at the highest summer food service program rate. And we've listed what those rates are on the slide for you so that you know what the reimbursement will be if you participate in the seamless summer option. So moving on to the next slide. And with that higher rate of reimbursement for breakfast and lunch, the additional reimbursement that would normally apply for participating in the traditional program, such as the severe need breakfast reimbursement, the 7 cents performance-based reimbursement for meeting meal pattern requirements, and then the 2 cent differential for schools that have high percentages of free and reduced participation, that reimbursement will not be added on top of that higher rate of summer food service program reimbursement. So you will not be receiving that additional reimbursement if you participate in the seamless summer option. Seamless summer option operators, schools that participate, will continue to receive the state match funds for breakfast and lunch in school year 21-22. These are funds that are allocated through the legislature, and they are paid separately one time per year. So they're not added to the monthly reimbursement. They are a lump sum payment for each of these two state mandated reimbursements, and they're paid one time per year separately, so different times of the year. But our seamless summer operators will continue to receive that. So why is USDA allowing all of this flexibility for the upcoming school year? And the rationale is, well, we're transitioning back to a more normal school year, and the seamless summer option is under the school meals program, and that allows our schools to serve higher quality and more nutritious meals because the meals have to meet the requirements of the school meals program. So it has to follow those meals, or meals have to be planned around the breakfast and lunch meal patterns. And offering the meals at no charge to students promotes program access, because USDA realizes families, households are still experiencing the hardship of the pandemic, and providing meals at no charge to students helps with the food insecurity that many households may still be experiencing and may continue to experience, as we don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic at the present time. And then the third rationale is that it does reduce the administrative burden for our SFAs. And with that, the claiming for the seamless summer program is different than the traditional. You would not be claiming by eligibility category, paid, free, and reduced, because all students are receiving meals free of charge. They're all claimed as free. So meal counting and claiming should be easier for our schools. So what else do you need to know for school year 21-22? Our SFAs, our school food authorities, are not required to operate the seamless summer option. It's not a requirement. You can opt not to participate. Schools can choose to operate the traditional national school lunch and breakfast programs if they so choose. If you opt not to operate the seamless summer option, then you would need to claim students by eligibility category, paid, free, and reduced. And you would receive reimbursement based on those eligibility categories. And you're probably asking, maybe some of you that are new is, well, where do I find these reimbursement rates to even know how much our school receives? And I'm going to direct you back to our website. Under click links, the reimbursement rates are posted under click links. And as you click on that and go into the reimbursement rates, you will find that all of the reimbursement rates are posted. The rates for the school meals program are not released from USDA till late July. And so the rates that are posted on our website are for the past year, not the upcoming year. As soon as we receive those reimbursement rates, we will add that information to our website. But what's on your slide right now are the rates from school year 2021. You will also find the summer food service rates listed as well under click links. So I also need to talk about the after school care snack program. And with the after school care snack program, operating the seamless summer option, schools are limited to 2 meals or 1 meal and 1 snack per day under the seamless summer option. So if you are a school that operates the after school care snack program and you are already serving breakfast and lunch, or your plans are to serve breakfast and lunch through the seamless summer option, you will have to participate with the after school care snack program under the traditional school meals program. So that means, yes, you can still operate breakfast and lunch through seamless summer, but if you have an after school care program, that will require that you operate that through the traditional school meals program. That will also require the completion of 2 different site applications for the same site. I know it seems a little confusing, but the seamless summer option, you are limited to the number of meals that you can serve. So 2 meals or 1 meal and 1 snack. But USDA is allowing schools to still participate in the after school snack program while participating in the seamless summer option. It just requires the completion of the traditional site application for the after school program. It will also require claiming 2 different claims under the school meals program, one for seamless summer option and one for the after school care snack program. So some other waivers that have been extended from USDA that you need to know about. And these waivers were extended to promote operational flexibility for all SFAs in school year 21-22. And so the following waivers were extended, which were the non-congregate meals. So if a school perhaps needs to go to remote learning in the upcoming school year, there is the waiver to provide the non-congregate meals, so the grab and go meals or meals that are taken off site. There's also the flexibility of meal time. And so those grab and go meals can be picked up at different times than what would typically be normal serving times. There's also flexibility for parent guardian pickup of those meals. And then a waiver was extended for offer versus serve flexibility for high school students. And those waivers were extended due to the uncertainty of the pandemic. And they're not intended to be used unless needed. So only for the duration and extent needed. So keep that in mind. They're not to be used like for the start of school when all kids are back in session. It's just as we go through the school year, if the need arises for these flexibilities, these waivers are in place. So let's do another polling question. So based on the information that has been provided about the seamless summer option and the traditional breakfast and lunch meal pattern, what do you think your school will be doing or participating in for school year 21-22? So the first is undecided. Geez, this is all new information. I've never heard it before. I don't know what we'll be doing. The second is, well, we're not going to participate in the seamless summer option. We're going to participate in the traditional breakfast and lunch school meal pattern. Or, well, we're going to participate in the seamless summer option for breakfast and or lunch. And then the second part of the question is if you're participating in the seamless summer option for breakfast and lunch, will you be participating in the after school care snack program under the school meals program? So Becky, let's launch that poll and see what our audience says they're planning to do.
$207 of 239 have answered. Go ahead and
Becky,
end.
Let's see the results. Oh, wow. Well, 75% of our audience plan to participate in the seamless summer option for breakfast and lunch. We have 16% that will be participating in both the seamless summer option and the traditional after school care. So, you know, if I can do some quick math, I think we're at about 91%, maybe, yeah, 91% of our audience plan to utilize the seamless summer option. And we have 8% that's undecided at this point. And we have 2% that plan to do the traditional. So the vast majority plan to participate in the seamless summer option.
Sean?
Yes.
Can I interject here for a second? Katie said the reimbursement rates came in yesterday, and if you folks do claim snack under the school nutrition program, the regular school meals program, the reimbursement will be $1 instead of $1.02 as it would be through SSO.
Thank you, Donna. That's great information to share with our audience. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to be talking about some basic program operations that you need to know about. No matter if you participate in the seamless summer option or the traditional school meals option. SFAs must adhere to the rules and regulations of the program in order to receive federal dollars. The school meals program is a federal program. And with that, there's rules and regulations that must be followed. So USDA provides those federal dollars for meals served in schools. The Nebraska Department of Education Nutrition Services, your presenters today, program specialists that work in nutrition services, we personally don't distribute the dollars, but through the claim that you submit for reimbursement, those dollars are distributed by nutrition services. And then next slide. But schools that want those dollars have to meet the required federal regulations. And then to ensure that schools are meeting those federal regulations, Nutrition Services conducts what we call administrative reviews in a 5-year review cycle to ensure compliance with the rules and regulations of the program. And we train on the rules and regulations of the program, just like the training you're attending today, to find out more of what you need to know for school year 21-22. We're providing you the information. And just kind of as a reminder to everyone, it has been, since March of 2019, there have been 96 different child nutrition response waivers issued. So it has been a roller coaster ride with all of the waivers and ensuring that everyone understood what they needed to be doing. And as we transition back into a more normal school year for 21-22, we just want to make sure everyone understands what their options are to participate in the seamless summer option. All meals are provided to students at no charge. They're claimed at the higher rate of reimbursement. And then what you need to do to get to ensure that you are receiving that reimbursement by following the rules and regs. So let's move on to the next slide. Something important, I keep mentioning our Nutrition Services website, but this is where you're going to find information about all of the programs. Under Nutrition Services, we not only administer the school meals program, but also the child and adult care food program and the summer food service program. So underneath Nutrition Services are these 3 main programs. Just as a reminder, we are no longer located in the state office building. The whole Department of Education vacated the state office building. Gosh, I think we were out in April, and we are moving to a new location. We are at a new location, but we will not be fully in that location till probably the end of this year. And so we continue to work remotely. And Tara, could you mute your mic?
Oh.
Thank you. So just to give you an idea of where we're located, we're working from our home offices. We do have access to the building. And another area on this web page I want to point your attention is our contact information. Because we want you to stay in contact with us, our contact information is posted on our website. So if you need a phone number, if you need an email address, you're wondering who to contact, that's where you're going to find the most current contact information. And it's pretty exciting that we're going to have 2 new team members join us, 2 new program specialists join us in August. And those 2 members are going to be Jessica Permounsky. She's going to be located in the North Platte office. And Lauren Christensen will be joining us in the Lincoln office. So we're pretty excited to have some new staff members join us. So next slide. So let's get started with some other important information, and that would include important dates. What do I need to be doing, and when do I need to be doing it? And so on our website, under the school meals program, forms and resources, the first thing under the school meals program is the important dates. I also have forms and resources circled because that's another area of our website that is very important to be familiar with. But when you click on the important dates, you will find a calendar of those things that need to happen and when they need to happen. So this is also included as a handout in your packet. And so we can see the very first thing listed is July 1st. That is always the start of the new program year, July 1st through June 30th. So program year 21-22 started July 1st. Important dates give you an outline of what needs to be happening when, and make sure you're familiar with the forms and resources also under the school meals program. So participation in the school meals program requires completion of the annual application. Normally, this application opens July 1st, but it has been delayed because of the addition of the seamless summer option. Our state has never participated in the seamless summer option, or not in recent years. I should say that that was an option at one time, but not in recent years since our application packet has been updated. So we had to have that added by our software company, and it is now being tested, and it is not yet fully operational. And so once that application is available for you to complete, you will receive an email that says that it has been opened. So we are expecting by August 1st that you will be able to complete your annual application. Becky, would you go back one? And so on this screen, I want to talk about how you get to the application. And the application claims are located on a link from our website. You can see at the lower left-hand side of the slide, there is a link called Child Nutrition Program, CNP. And by clicking that link, you are taken to the online application and claim system. So when you click the link for the online application and claim system, you are taken to the login page where you enter the child nutrition program. I'm sorry. If you are not entering through the nutrition services homepage, you will want to bookmark the link on the screen, which will take you directly into the CNP system. Entering the system requires a user ID and password to access the system. Becky, next slide. Well, if you've had a change in authorized representatives, which would maybe be your superintendent, your finance director, your principal, over the summer, you will need to request a new user ID and password. The ID and password is given to the authorized representative, and the authorized representative is the nutrition services contact person. This person is ultimately responsible for the administration of the program. So ensuring that all of the rules and regulations are adhered to. The form is then completed with all required signatures and needs to be returned to nutrition services at the email address listed on the screen. The form can be found on the nutrition services website. Becky, next slide. Under forms and resources, online claim for reimbursement. And the form is available there, which can be downloaded for completion. So once the form is completed and emailed to nutrition services, then a new user ID and password is issued to the authorized representative. The former ID and password is deactivated, and the new authorized representative receives the new user ID and password and instructions for logging on to the CMP system. So next slide. So you've received the user ID and password. You're able to log on to the system. And when you log on to the system, the screen that is on the slide will appear. And that is a colorful array of boxes that indicate what programs you have participated in. And so, for example, probably the majority of our schools have participated now in the school nutrition program, the school meals program, and also the summer food service program. For school year 21-22, you will click on the blue box because you are no longer able to participate in the summer program. So you will click on the blue box, and by clicking on the blue box, Becky, next slide. The following screen will appear. And on the following screen, you will see a dark blue header bar, which houses the application, claim, compliance, and security tabs. And by clicking on each one of these, you will be taken into that part of the CMP system. I also want to draw your attention to the right-hand side of the slide, where we have programs listed in the colorful box. By clicking on that, you can navigate in between programs if you are participating in multiple programs. And then also I want to draw your attention to the year tab. The year tab is really a great feature in that it lets you go back into previous years to look at applications and claims. So it's a great resource if you want to know what happened in the past, or if you want to go back and look at, how was last year's application completed? I'm wondering about reimbursement from last year. How did we start the school year? Or I'm wondering about the reimbursement we received in school year 19-20. It lets you go back and look at those particular years for claims and applications. Once you click on applications, then you will be taken into the application packet, okay? You'll see the following drop downs, and by clicking on the application packet, that will take you into being able to select the current school year's application to complete. Now, once again, I want to remind you, this is not open as of yet. You will receive an email telling you when the application is open for your completion. And if you remember, the reason why it's not opened right now is we are having the seamless summer option added to the site applications. So that's the part that's going to look different when you complete the application. The sponsor application is going to look like it normally has. It's the site application that will be looking different, where you will have to select. Next slide, Becky. We'll give them a screenshot of what that will look like. So as you look at the bottom of the page, we see at the top, you'll complete the sponsor application as you normally have. At the bottom of the page is where the site applications are housed. So for every feeding site, you will complete a separate site application. And so we can see that we have the school nutrition program listed, and then we have the seamless summer option listed. So it will require the completion of the seamless summer option site application. So that's what it's going to look like. Back on the sponsor application, it's important to point out that there are 3 contacts listed on the sponsor application. This is so important for you to know. That is how we know if there is someone new. It is how we know who is the authorized representative, who is your food service director, who is your claim contact. And so that information is critical to keep updated. And also make sure you're checking your email addresses that they are correct, because that is how we communicate with you, is from your email address that's listed on the sponsor application. So if there's an error on your email address, you're not going to get the communication from our office. Those three contacts receive communication from our office, and that's how we communicate, is through those email addresses. So that information definitely needs to be updated and correct. It's also advisable to have different individuals listed under those three contacts, because we all know things happen. People leave. So for schools that only have maybe one or two different individuals listed under contacts, keep in mind that's how we communicate. If that person leaves, or let's say something happens and they're away from the office, they're not going to receive communication from us. And so it's highly recommended that three different individuals be listed as the authorized representative, food service director, and claim contact. Next slide. So we've just really briefly touched on the application. Once the seamless summer option has been thoroughly tested, we feel comfortable with it. We tell you that the application package is open. There will also be a user guide for completing the seamless summer option that will be distributed, as well as some additional training that we feel may be necessary as you complete the seamless summer option site application. So look forward to receiving that. But back to the application, some other things I want to talk about are the completion of your food safety inspections. That is all under the application. And these are all the different things that you may see as you click on application. So under application packet, we're going to see the verification report. We're going to see food safety inspections, and that's what I want to draw your attention to. That area needs to be completed. You are reporting the number of food safety inspections that happened last school year. So for school year 2021. So it's what's happened in the past. And we collect that information for USDA reporting. When you click on that, you have to report the number of health inspections that occurred at each feeding site. And that number could be 0, 1, or 2. Any of those are acceptable. But while you're in the application, make sure you complete the food safety inspection portion also. And then for our non-public schools, you are required to complete the financial report section. And this is only for our non-public schools. Our public schools report this information through the annual financial report that's submitted to NDE annually by the school district, but our non-publics do not. And so it's required that they report this information under the financial report annually. And it's information based on last year's operation. So that information can be completed. And I believe that section is open now for completion. So just as a reminder, our non-publics, don't forget this piece that needs to be completed. So next slide. Time for a stand and stretch. Thank you. I want everyone just to take a couple seconds to maybe stand, stretch, get comfortable. And we're going to look at some of the questions that are in the chat and address those. So stand, stretch, please. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much for your attention so far. And I see we have a lot of questions in the chat. And so I'm going to ask maybe Erica. Are there any questions that we can answer right now?
Yeah, let me look here. I answered several of them in the chat, but let me pull them up.
I see one that just popped up on the screen. If using SSO, do we still need to collect free and reduced applications? And the answer is yes. And we will be going through that part a little bit later in the presentation. Although students are receiving meals free of charge, it is important that households still complete applications, schools still determine eligibility for those applications, still determine, still notify households of eligibility for direct certification and for income eligibility applications. That information, the PEBT benefits that households have been receiving, that will continue. And so that information is necessary for those households to receive that additional benefit, as well as that information is necessary for if you are doing any sort of waivers for your households, fee waivers, eligibility for Medicaid and SHIP.
Okay, the first question was, if we didn't do the SSO for summer, can we still do it for the regular school year?
And the question, that's a great question. The SSO was not an option previously for summer. This is an option that's available through, I believe, waiver 85 for school year 21-22. So yes, if you didn't do the summer food service program last year, that's fine, and you operated under the traditional program. Schools all have the option to participate in the seamless summer option for school year 21-22.
The next question is, if we have a school that has 3 meals, 2 under SSO and 1 under after school care snack program, when will that snack application be available?
The snack application will be, well, we're talking a package. Remember, we're talking the school meals application package. As part of that package, we have a sponsor application that tells about the school district, the contact information. And then underneath that, we have site applications. And so we will have site applications for the traditional school meals program and the seamless summer option. The whole package will open at the same time. So you will be receiving an email when you can enter your information in the package, the sponsor application, the site applications.
Next question is, can we do the lunch and after school program under the SSO since we aren't doing breakfast? Or do we need to apply for after school separate?
Remember, the requirements of the seamless summer option is that you can participate in 2 meals or 1 meal and 1 snack. So if you do not have a breakfast program and you have an after school care program and lunch, then you can participate in both of those under the seamless summer option.
And then we had about 3 questions just asking, what would be the reason to do traditional versus SSO? Several people wondering the same thing, and why would you not want that higher rate of reimbursement?
You know, and that is such a great question, because I wonder that also. With a higher rate of reimbursement, and offering meals free of charge to students, it just seems like that is like the best option. Now, I can't speak for why a school would not, but it certainly seems that USDA has provided these flexibilities to our schools, and they are to the benefit of children and to the school. But we have to, it's an option. You know, there's the option to participate in Seamless Summer or not. So we're presenting it with the information that USDA has provided. We'll take one more before we move on.
Okay. Just looking for one that I didn't answer in the chat then.
And thank you, Erica, for answering those in the chat. So make sure you look at the chat for the answers Erica provided. And if anybody feels, you know, if anybody would like to unmute and ask a question, you certainly can. Oh, I see. I'll answer this, the last one that just came in. What are the adult rates that our office suggests to be for school districts? So what is the adult meal pricing that our office suggests for school year 21-22? The adult meal prices, we use the free rate of reimbursement under the traditional school meals program, plus the value of commodities, because your school receives no reimbursement for adult meals, and those meals need to be priced so that all costs are covered. And so that's the formula we use, is the free rate of reimbursement for the traditional school meals program, plus the value of commodities school districts receive. And because that information was just released yesterday, and I was unaware that it was released, our office has not updated our adult meal pricing for school year 21-22, but we will now that the rates have been released. So that's the formula we use. And so that's what we would suggest that adult meals be charged. Just keep in mind, you receive no reimbursement. The program is for children, it's not for adults, and so all costs have to be recovered for adult meals. Okay, I think we're ready to move on, and I'm going to turn it over to Donna to talk about the importance of counting and claiming.
Thank you so much, Sean. And Sean and Erica, you've done a great job with that first section. I mean, there are a lot of questions in the chat box, and we really welcome the questions, because now is a good time to ask. We're going to now switch it over, or just continue, I guess, a little bit with the importance of counting and claiming meals. I've seen some questions about this. And also Sean has talked a little bit about meal prices. So all of you know that proper meal counting is very important, because your school is receiving federal reimbursement for meals served to eligible students that meet program requirements. As the bookkeeper, you may be the person responsible for the point of service meal count and also identifying reimbursable school meals. I know that some of you wear many different hats, so I bet there are quite a few of you in the audience today who will be responsible for point of service. So basically, there can be one meal type per student per day claimed. For example, you can claim one breakfast and one lunch for each student, but you can't claim two breakfasts, for example, for a student per day. So to be counted as reimbursable, meals must meet meal pattern requirements, and that means that specific food components in required grade group portions must be served, and this information documented on a production record. Meals must be served to students enrolled in the school. and meals must be counted as the student leaves the line with or receives the reimbursable meal. The end of the serving line is considered to be the point of service. This is after all foods that contribute to meal pattern have been offered to the students, including foods on fruit and vegetable bars. And some of you may be having different versions of fruit and vegetable bars this year. An accurate point of service meal count, which we will call point of service, we'll refer to as POS, is absolutely required. And we'll talk more specifically about methods of counting meals in a few slides. Daily meal counts must be accurately combined to equal a total for the month for each meal type. And then this monthly total is used to complete the claim for reimbursement. All right, next slide, please. So just how important is the person who serves at the POS? This person is very important, super important, because if this is you, you must be able to identify that the student is present with a reimbursable meal. And if offer versus serve, otherwise known as OVS, is implemented, the POS person must be familiar with the concept. So you have a lot of duties there at the end of the meal line. OVS is a provision in the National School Lunch Program that allows students to decline some of the food offered. The goals of OVS are to reduce food waste in the school meals program while permitting students to choose foods they want to eat. So it also helps to reduce overall food costs. Now let's give an example of this. OVS is a little bit different at breakfast than at lunch. At lunch, students must be offered all 5 food components in the required portion sizes, but they must, at a minimum, select 3 out of 5 of those components. And one of those items must be a half cup of fruit and or vegetable to equal a reimbursable meal. Now, the good news is that you're not in this alone on your own little island at the POS station. The food service director is trained in OVS and shares information with the person at the point of service. And it's really important to communicate the communication between the two of you is good, because that helps you to know how the food items credit for the meal at the POS position. So on the next slide, we have a link that takes you to our meal pattern requirements page that has a section on OVS. There you'll find an OVS manual and a great 2-page handout that explains the concepts, and they're both shown here. Now, if you don't feel like reading a 30-page manual, the handout in the middle, the 2-page handout, gives a great overview of OVS, both at breakfast and at lunch. And again, I can't stress enough how important it is to communicate with the food service director, who is known as the meal planner, to know how the food items credit for the meal. Having that short conversation prior to each meal period is very valuable. And again, on the right here, we have a handout called Understanding the Difference Between the Menu Planner and POS. This colored handout is a great resource to have at the POS station because it gives an overview of offer versus serve for both lunch and breakfast meals. And I've seen a lot of these at POS stations in schools. And another important point to make is that what happens when the student gets to the point of service and does not have the required components on their tray for a reimbursable meal? Well, you must ask the student to go back and select additional items to make a reimbursable meal. And sometimes there are other ways you can handle this too. We don't have time to go into it today, but having like a basket of maybe pieces of fruit or something at the point of service will help you get through that situation. But if the student does not have a reimbursable meal and refuses to go back to get something else, then that meal cannot be claimed for reimbursement, and the student must be charged a la carte prices for the items that they do have on their tray. Okay, next up is counting meals. More information on this. This slide shows our webpage where more info can be found, meal counts and claims, and there's a handout called Counting Meals. And again, it's of the utmost important because you're receiving federal reimbursement to have an accurate meal count. School staff must accurately count meals served to students and record those counts daily. Now, in a normal, what we refer to, I guess, as a normal year, when you would be operating the school lunch and breakfast program, and you are varying, your reimbursement varies by category, and you're counting meals by category, free, reduced, and paid, the amount of reimbursement will be different for each of those categories. However, if you are operating the SSO, Seamless Summer, in this next coming up school year, all students will receive free meals, so you will not need to count by the students' free, reduced, and paid eligibility. And when the questions were in the chat about why would you not do SSO, it's going to make it easier for you as the bookkeeper because all meals will be free and that's how they will be counted. Okay, next slide. So now let's look at meal counting options at the point of service. Last year, we found that many schools, many of you probably used your software system to provide an accurate meal count while operating the summer food service program. And that again meant that you were reimbursement was for all free meals. Examples of software systems include things like Power School, maybe you call it Power Lunch, Wordware, Infinite Campus, Sycamore, and many others. Now, we expect that to be the case this year. However, there are other options, some that are popular with smaller schools. For those that do not utilize a software system, a manual system can be used. And for a manual system, an example could be a roster that's used as a meal counting tool. Another option for schools operating the SSO is the SSO daily meal count form shown here, which is similar to the SFSP, the Summer Food Service Program meal count form. And I did see a couple of questions about that in the chat. So yes, that can be used. And then on the next slide, after your daily meal counts have been documented, the numbers are then entered into a monthly form. And you have the choice of using one of three forms. One of them is shown here. It's called the Edit Check Worksheet, otherwise known as Attachment J. The daily meal count form from your software program is another option, or you can use the SSO claim consolidation form, which we'll talk about in just a minute. As shown on this slide, Attachment J is available as a PDF printable form or as an Excel spreadsheet on the meal counts and claims page of our website. That's where you find this information. This form is completed for each day of the month, with the daily counts recorded only for free meals if operating the SSO. So again, makes it easier. The total of free meals for the month is then recorded in the total at the bottom of the column. Now, this form can also be used for tracking adult meals. And Sean just talked briefly about adult meals. They cannot be claimed for reimbursement, of course, but they must be recorded. If your software system provides the daily count of free meals and compiles the totals for the month, then you can print that report. I know that I've seen many monthly reports from programs like Power Lunch and Wordware, and that is a complete report, so you wouldn't have to complete the top portion of Attachment J. And on the next slide, we see the bottom portion of Attachment J. And those of you who are seasoned bookkeepers, you've seen this many, many times. This would be required to be completed in, again, what we call a normal year, but it's not required for school year 21-22 if operating the SSO. So that would be another benefit, a little bit less bookwork. However, it's important to note that anytime you're calculating student numbers, such as average daily attendance or average daily participation, you must round up to the nearest whole number, because let's face it, you can't have part of a student, so you round up. Okay, on the next slide, we see our third option for counting and consolidating those monthly numbers. And this is the SSO claim consolidation form. In addition to having columns to record the totals of free breakfasts and lunches served to students, this form also has a column in which to record the number of snacks if you are participating in the after-school care program. There are also columns, as you can see, for recording the number of non-reimbursable program or non-program adult breakfasts and lunches. Now let me define program versus non-program. A program adult is anyone involved directly in the implementation or operation of the SSO. This includes the food service staff, who may receive their meals for free. Non-program adults are any other adults who are eating maybe school breakfast, school lunch, but they're not directly involved in the program. So these are individuals such as teachers in the school. No reimbursement is, and they would be paying for their meals most likely. And again, no reimbursement is provided for meals served to any adults, but they must be counted. Okay, so we have our total meals for the month, their meal counts, and now we need to submit the monthly claim for reimbursement. Now, Sean already showed you where to access claims in the CNP system. I just want to mention some important reminders that pertain to claims entered under any program. Claims can be submitted anytime after the final meal and/or snack of the month has been served for the claim month. Every month, you should reconcile claim payments with your bank statement, and your claim status in CNP must show as accepted status to be processed for payment. This is really important because you see this occasionally. Someone will submit a claim or think they have submitted a claim, and instead of accepted, they see validated or pending on the claim homepage. And validated or pending means the claim has not been submitted, so you need to return to CNP to complete the certification step required to submit the claim. I was telling Erica and Sean the other day, it took me a long time to remember that accepted was the right term that you needed to see to make sure it would be processed for payment. So I made up a little song saying it must be accepted, not pending, accepted, not pending, because a lot of claims will show up as pending, and that means that they won't be paid unless you go back into the system. A claim in accepted status can still be modified, but will need to be resubmitted after changes have been made. So if you go into a claim that is in accepted status for any reason, if you click modify after that claim has been accepted, the claim must be resubmitted even if no changes were made. So just be aware that accepted is the word that you need to see. And I think I've talked enough about that. Okay, the last day to submit a claim is 60 days following the month covered by the claim. We do have a chart in your handout that shows you the exact dates for each month. As shown on this slide, for example, if the claim is for the month of February, it must be submitted by April 29th at the latest. So now we're going to review some other requirements. We'll briefly discuss each one of these that are shown on the slide. And the first one that we will talk about is setting meal prices and paid lunch equity. So next slide shows finding info on meal prices and charge policies. I believe the next slide, there it is. Thank you. If operating the SSO, of course, you do not have to be as concerned with setting student meal prices. However, because they will be free, right? However, meal pricing not only includes student meals, but also non-program foods such as a la carte items that you may sell, second entrees, and so on, and also adult meals. The handout on setting meal prices highlighted on this slide is updated annually based on current reimbursement rates. And this is the handout that you will be receiving an email about saying this is ready now because we have an adult meal price for you. This is what Sean was talking about. Reimbursement rates came in late yesterday, and so we don't have that information for you yet. So we did not include this handout in your handout packet, but it will be, the information you will be notified about that as soon as it's available. Okay, so next slide. The PLE, paid lunch equity calculation tool, doesn't the PLE, those just saying the letters makes me just shiver with delight, and I'm really kidding. But it's a tool designed to determine paid lunch prices an SFA needs to charge. So it is a useful tool for the SFAs. All SFAs required to complete it annually, and then you would print and save the completed tool and keep it on file at the school. And basically, this would be under, again, a normal year under normal circumstances. The PLE is usually released in February, except because of the unusual circumstances of this past school year, it was released in June. The news in bold here on the screen is important because SFAs planning to operate SSO during school year 21-22 do not need to follow PLE requirements to set paid meal prices for the school year. So that means that you do not need to follow those requirements. If the SFA, if your school does not plan to operate SSO during the coming school year, you must use the PLE tool to set the paid meal price if the nonprofit school food service account did not have a positive or zero balance as of December 31st, 2020. And that sentence right there is so big and has so much information in it. If you have any questions, you can go to the school year 21-22 tool on our PLE page, or let one of us know. But if you are operating the SSO, you don't need to follow the PLE requirements. Okay, next slide, please. Now, what about a charge policy? Since 2017, schools have been required to have a written charge policy. The goal of requiring this policy is to decrease what is known as bad debt, which is uncollectible debt, because once debt is considered uncollectible, typically at the end of the year, then the school has to use non-federal funds, like from the general fund, to be transferred into the nonprofit school food service account to cover the expense. And the school food service account, it's best, and USDA likes to see those that are self-serving or that run on their own and don't need money from other sources from the school to help keep it in business. Now, this policy did not seem important in school year 21-22. If you're operating the SSO, it may not seem important. However, you must still provide it to all households on an annual basis, because it not only applies to the meals for students, but it also applies to a la carte items that may be sold. It should also be posted on the school website and in student handbooks. It's the school's decision whether to allow meal charges, and the handout on this topic provides guidance for developing or updating your policy. And I just want to mention that under a normal school year, and if you're running the school lunch, regular school lunch breakfast program, it must be made clear to households that they can apply for meal benefits anytime during the school year. And if a student has money in hand for the day's meal, even if they have a charge that's overdue, they cannot be denied a meal at that point. Okay, so non-program foods or a la carte. We mentioned non-program foods earlier. The definition of a non-program food is any non-reimbursable food or beverage purchased using funds from the nonprofit school food service account. And now this includes the sale of second entrees, milk, snacks, and adult meals. Prices for these items charged must be set high enough to recover food costs because money should not be lost on these items. Keep the calculations on file because we will ask for those at an administrative review. And it's good to note that the food service program cannot financially support the sale of non-program food items and meals. Okay, so next up we get to competitive foods, and this will lead us into smart snacks. So we need to first of all define what are competitive foods. Food sold at school during meal times for which the nonprofit school food service account does not receive the proceeds from these sales. So in other words, these foods are sold in competition with the school meals program. This policy is designed to assure that healthy foods and meals for children are provided during the school day. And it identifies when foods can be sold. So competitive food sales are prohibited from 1/2 hour before lunch and breakfast until 1/2 hour after each of those meal service periods. So those sales of foods, unless the food service gets the profits from the food, the sales are prohibited from 1/2 hour before to 1/2 hour after meal service, both breakfast and lunch. And to give you an example, let's say your school has a vending machine that's managed by the student council, which vending machines often are. That means it must be turned off or unavailable during those times. And if this is not followed, reimbursement can be withheld from schools in violation of the policy. So this leads us in, as I said, to smart snacks. And if your school does allow foods or beverages to be sold during the day at times other than meal times, which of course means you have to be following the Nebraska Competitive Foods Rule, these smart snack regulations specify what foods and beverages can be sold during the school day on the school campus. So let's define school day. It's defined for smart snack purposes as midnight the night before until 30 minutes after the end of the school day. And what is the school campus? Well, that's all property under the jurisdiction of the school that is accessible to the students during the day. Now let's go back to that student council vending machine. If they want it turned on 1/2 hour after breakfast and lunch so they can sell during the day, these items in the machine must meet smart snack standards. They can't just sell candy bars and regular soda. Now in your handout packet, you have 2 smart snacks handouts. The decision chart on one side defines the standards for snacks, and the other side defines standards for beverages. There's also an individual beverage guide that goes into greater detail regarding beverages because it does get a little more complicated. These handouts are guides to help you determine if an item can be sold. There's also a link to a smart snack calculator on our website. And you may be saying to me, well, Donna, I don't need to know this information. I'm not going to be involved in this. Well, we never know. Some of you are probably involved with smart snacks and the vending machines, for example, at school. Some of you may not. But it's a good idea to be familiar with the standards that must be followed so that possibly if the student council doesn't know what can be sold, they can say, let's go to the bookkeeper. He or she has that information and can help us. All right, next up is school wellness policy. USDA requires all participating schools in the lunch and meals program to have a school wellness policy. It must cover the required USDA key areas, but is specific to the School Food Authority or SFA. A school wellness committee must conduct meetings and have a process for evaluating the effectiveness of the policy's goals. So that means that the policy must have goals. More information about school wellness policies can be found on our website by clicking on the link the red arrow is pointing to under Administration, Record Keeping, and Finance in the Forms and Resources section. We have also included a wellness policy assessment tool in your packet that's a really helpful checklist a lot of schools have used. Again, now the wellness policy is something you may not be directly involved in. You may not be a member of the committee unless they come and this is before they recruit you to do that. However, you may be involved in making the policy available to the public. Maybe you have to post it on the website, include it in the student handbooks. So it's good to have an idea of what this policy is all about. Okay, on the next slide, we start our discussion about a very important topic, civil rights. Now, in this little text box here on your slide, you see that there in the Forms and Resources Center, you can go to civil rights, and there are several things listed here. The first thing is the Civil Rights Summary document, and it's an outline of requirements pertaining to civil rights, and it is included in your packet. The school food service authorities are required to display the "And Justice for All" poster that you see in the top right corner. That's the poster's bigger, it has a lot of text on it, but that's the picture at the top of it. It must be in a location visible to students, such as in the service or dining area. Annual civil rights training for all staff involved in the school meals program must be conducted. And in yellow here, we see there are a couple of training opportunities shown on this slide. There's the USDA training available, and also there's a training available through the Institute of Child Nutrition, or ICN. Now, when people are trained, and this again is an annual training, who, when, and what was presented must be documented, and that documentation kept on file, because we definitely will need to see that during an administrative review. The last link on this page takes you to the Civil Rights Summary Attachment H1. This form is required to be completed by November 15th as part of the verification process. On the next slide, we're going to talk a little more about the non-discrimination statement, the USDA non-discrimination statement, because it must be included in program information such as that found in the student handbook. The best place to position it is at the end of the section that addresses the school meals program. Or if your school meals program is posted on the website, it should be placed there also. Now you see that on your handout, this is your summary handout I referred to earlier. And all the text in the box is the full non-discrimination statement. Now, this is the USDA non-discrimination statement that is specific to the school nutrition and meals program. And it's a different statement from the one the school posts that could be the school non-discrimination or referred to as the NDA non-discrimination statement. So this is a different statement that must be posted wherever school meals information is available. So we ask that you please check your handbooks and your website to ensure you have the most recent version. I don't believe there's been a different version lately, but we still see some older versions in student handbooks, for example. So please check that and make sure the current one is being used, and that it is the USDA non-discrimination statement. And again, all of the wording in the black box must be included. Now, if you have a program material that is not large enough to include the entire statement, such as a menu, it can be the single sentence, "This institution is an equal opportunity provider," and that information can be found on this handout. All right. We have a few more topics to go through here. Next up, professional standards. Professional standards went into effect for school nutrition professionals in 2015. And what this does is require a minimum amount of annual training hours for school nutrition program directors, managers, and staff. There are also minimum hiring standards, and this is what we're looking at here. This is a clip, a snip from the USDA summary on this topic, and it shows the USDA hiring standards, which include education and experience requirements for food service directors, the person in charge of the day-to-day operation of the program. SFAs must hire staff that meet these standards and supply documentation upon request. So it's not that these are standards for you to be hired, but you may be involved in keeping this documentation. Now on the next slide, we see the annual professional standards continuing education training hours that are required for all food service staff. Some of you, I have actually seen a few of you who are listening to this today, and I'm sure there are a good number that you are the food service director or a food service staff. So you may be wearing 2, 3, 4 hats. So this information would pertain to you and be covered more thoroughly in the summary, the summer training that's coming up beginning this coming Thursday. But for those of you who are bookkeepers, we do not have a set minimum number of training hours for bookkeepers like we do for food service staff. However, it's expected you will get some training each school year. And guess what? Right now, you are receiving training and you have a training certificate at the end of your packet. After this is over, you can complete it and keep it on file because we'd like to see that when we visit your school. And training tracker logs are also available to track your training. And I believe Sean also referred to and showed you where to find bookkeeper training videos that can help you with different topics in the bookkeeping job. So that also could be considered training, and you can earn training hours for watching those videos. So yeah, you have a log in your packet, and be sure and track this and be sure and keep your training certificate on file. Okay, our next slide briefly shows us contracts or meal service agreements. Okay, so I know that there are schools on here today that you may provide meals for other schools, or maybe you're a school that receives meals from other schools or a vendor. Well, you must have an agreement in place, and we provide these agreements on this site, on this page in our website. It's an annual agreement for meals and or service between two schools or between an SFA and a commercial vendor. And as I said, there are different types of agreement. Once this agreement is completed annually, it must be attached in the school meals application packet for the SFA requiring the service. So the school that provides the meals does not have to attach it to your application. However, the school that receives must attach it, and that won't be possible until after the application opens August 1st. On the next slide, we have some contact information for the USDA Foods Program. This program is administered by the Department of Health and Human Services. It isn't a part of the Department of Ed. Entitlement dollars for the purchase of domestic agriculture food products in school and institutions are available. You folks know that the food service director, many of you who are a food service director, you know what this is all about and know a lot more about it than I do. And you know you need to use these dollars annually. So if you have any questions about the program, here is the website. You can contact Chad, who's the coordinator, and Brian is a great source of information as a staff assistant. The next slide is referring to attachment 1, which is on-site reviews. On-site reviews must be completed by SFAs with more than one feeding site, and they should be completed by the bookkeeper or the authorized rep. One review for all sites serving lunch and 50% of sites serving breakfast must be completed by February 1st of 2022, but they can be completed, excuse me, any time up to that date. They must be maintained on site and not submitted to nutrition services unless requested. So just keep them on file with all of this other information. USDA waiver number 94 does allow this year for these reviews to be conducted off-site if necessary. Next is record retention. USDA's record retention policy pertains to all records that support the payment of federal dollars to a school food authority. School meal records retained for 3 years plus the current school year. They are property of the SFA and must be readily retrievable. You can also confirm with your software provider if you're saving them electronically the process to ensure backup. It's always good to have backup copies of things. So for an example, we're saying 3 years plus the current year. The current school year will be 21-22. The prior 3 school years run from 2018 through 2021, which is the last school year we just completed. So those records are the ones that must be kept through the end of the school year 21-22. Records older than 18-19 can be discarded unless the school or SFA has a longer record retention policy. Last topic in this section is procurement. The USDA requires our office to complete a procurement review every 3 to 6 years. You must include the following in your procurement process: the code of conduct, procurement plan, purchasing documentation that you have kept on file, and compliance with the Buy American provision. We do provide the complete handout for all of these forms, and many of you have already been through a procurement review, but not all schools have, so we needed to mention that again. All right, next slide, Becky. Let's stand and stretch break. Plus, let's go to the chat box and have some more questions and answers.
Okay, I hope everybody is standing and stretching and kind of relaxing. We'll let you just take a couple minutes to move around, do what you need to. And then we'll come back to the chat box and answer some of the most recent questions that you have typed in. But we're going to give you a chance to take a few minutes to move around first. And a big thank you for all of you that have your cameras on and are asking questions. We are 2/3 through our presentation today. We so appreciate your time and attention today. And so let's go ahead, and many of your questions we have answered in the chat, but I will go up to where I think we ended. And this question comes from Kim. If we complete 2 site applications, one for seamless summer, breakfast and lunch, and one for after school snack, do we need to do a site review? And the answer to that is you are required to do a site review if you have more than 1 feeding site. So let's talk about lunch first. For if you have more than 1 feeding site for lunch, you are required to do the site reviews. The on-site, technically now it can be done off-site because of the waiver. And that form needs to be completed for each feeding site. So schools with multiple feeding sites for lunch, that form needs to be completed by February 1st. And it is maintained on site. And then you are also required to do site reviews for 50% of your breakfast. So 50% of the sites that have breakfast need to have an on-site review completed. And then if you are participating in the after-school snack program, I remind you that a review needs to be completed for that program once during the first 4 weeks of operation. And then a second site review form needs to be completed within the school year. And those forms are available on the Nutrition Services website under the After School Snack Program. So those are the requirements for on-site reviews. And then let's take another question. What are the requirements for claiming special milk? Who can we use that program for? The special milk program is for students that don't have access to breakfast and or lunch. And so they do not have access to the meals. And it is typically used for half-day kindergarten. If schools have that, that was the thing, but I think most schools have now went to full-day kindergarten where students do have access to breakfast and lunch. For enrolled preschool students that maybe are there for a half day that do not have access to breakfast or lunch. So it's only for those students that can receive milk through not having access to the breakfast or lunch programs. So let's move on down. When using the SSO meal count sheets, can we enter those numbers into our POS as bulk sales as we did last year with the summer food service program? Once again, the meals are offered to students at no charge. So you will be claiming them all as free if you participate in the SSO program. So it seems like, Gail, what you used last year would be acceptable this year, as long as you maintain your daily count sheets to substantiate your claim for reimbursement. And do we need to complete the on-site review if we are using the SSO program? The answer is yes. You still need to complete the on-site review forms. And let's see, do we have anything else that we didn't talk about? Please unmute yourself. This is a great time to ask your questions or enter them into the chat. I answered earlier in the chat box, we had someone that needed to jump off and they wondered if they would be able to view this training at a later date. And the answer to that is yes. We will be posting the recorded version of this training to our website by August 1st.
I have a question, Sean.
Sure.
This is Lynette from HTRS. We are starting the going paperless this year with Power School. I was wondering, can we put the free and reduced applicants on the paperless app that we're putting out?
Okay, so you're making that as a option for your households to complete an online application. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, as long as all households receive the information that they can apply for benefits.
Okay, okay.
And
all
Eric
right.
is going to be talking about that more in detail in the next section.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You bet, great question. Well, I guess if there's no other questions that have been asked. Oh, okay, I think we are ready to move on to the next section. Is that correct? Erica and Donna?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So now we are moving into income eligibility, and Erica will be talking about this section.
Okay, let's begin by talking about the income eligibility process. Determining eligibility for free and reduced price meals is a very important responsibility of many bookkeepers. This year, distributing and processing income eligibility applications for free and reduced price meals is only required if your school is participating in the regular school meals program, or NSLP. However, for SFAs participating in the seamless summer option, even though all enrolled students are eligible for free meals or meals at no cost in school year 21-22, SFAs are still encouraged to determine meal eligibility, and I'll talk more about why this is in the upcoming slides. When starting the income eligibility determination process, the first step is to locate your copy of the USDA's Eligibility Manual for school meals, which is a great resource for both new and experienced bookkeepers. It is divided into the 6 sections, which are listed here on the slide, and it is a good resource for many of those frequently asked questions, such as joint custody and what should be included as income, or who should be included as part of the household. This resource can be found on the Nutrition Services website by clicking on Forms and Resources under the School Meals program, and then clicking on the Eligibility Manual for school meals. A picture of the cover of the Eligibility Manual, along with the direct link to the manual, is located in your handout packet. Please note that the July 2017 version is still the most current version we have available. Also, just a tip, I like to pull up the manual electronically on my computer and then use the find feature to search for the term I am looking for, rather than flipping through the paper copy. Next slide. If your school is operating the seamless summer option for school year 2021, then the SFA must provide public notification of the availability of no-cost meals through the seamless summer option on or near the beginning of school year 21-22. A sample press release was attached to the important school meals update emailed on July 16th, and it can also be found on the Nutrition Services website under Forms and Resources. School newsletters, websites, and other standard methods of communicating with families are acceptable methods of fulfilling this public notification requirement. Meals at no cost is the preferred terminology by USDA when communicating with families about SSO. Also available on the website is a cover letter explaining SSO. This cover letter should be sent along with the letter to households and the income eligibility application, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. And once again, just a reminder, all these forms are available on the nutrition website under Forms and Resources. So NDE continues to encourage SFAs to complete their normal meal application, distribution, and collection process. However, we understand that response rates may be reduced because of SSO's provision of no-cost meals. So with that in mind, the NDE has issued a supplementary cover letter to include with meal applications, which explains why households need to complete the income eligibility application. The first reason is for PEBT benefits. Households may be eligible for pandemic EBT benefits through the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. PEBT benefits are based in part on eligibility for free and reduced price meals. And so those could be used for future determination of PEBT benefits into school year 21-22. Just a side note here, we will not be discussing PEBT on this webinar. If you have questions regarding PEBT, those questions can be directed to Jenna Hilleglass in our office, and we can post her information in the chat box if you need that. Also, meal benefit carryover for school year 22-23 would be another reason for families to complete the income eligibility application. We're not sure how this is going to work yet. We're still waiting on how this will be addressed from USDA. And also, along with the meal application are those optional forms that the household can fill out, such as Attachment L, which is sharing information with other programs waiver, in which a parent or guardian can provide consent for school officials to share information from their free and reduced price school meals application with programs specific to your school. So some examples of that would be, let's say, for activity fees or scholarships. These are specific to your school, and those should all be listed separately on Attachment L before you send that out. Attachment L1 is the sharing of information with Medicaid and SHIP waiver. If students qualify for free or reduced price meals, they may also be able to get free or low cost health insurance through Medicaid or the state children's health insurance program, which is the SCHIP, the SHIP program. So on attachment L1, the household indicates if they do not want their free or reduced price meal application shared with Medicaid or the state children's health insurance program. And then also the special milk program, if your school participates in this program and provides free milk, then obviously you would need an income application to determine those students eligible for free milk. Next. In a normal school year, households must be given the letter to households, which is Attachment B, and the household meal application, which is Attachment C. For school year 21-22, since so many schools are opting to operate SSO, we've also made available the SSO meal application cover letter, which I just talked about, that it explains why a parent or guardian would complete a meal application, even with all students receiving no cost meals through the SSO. And you are allowed to edit this letter if you have programs that are specific to your school. And then we also have the SSO letter to household, Attachment B, which the update on this includes the meal charge amounts of $0 instead of the reduced price amounts to reflect no cost meals through SSO. There is also a Spanish version available on the NDE website of this. Optional forms, which may be included along with the applications, are Attachment E for self-employed individuals, and Attachment L, that sharing of information, and Attachment L1, the sharing of information with Medicaid and SHIP, which we just talked about on the previous slide. Applications can be distributed before the school year begins, but not before July 1st, which is the start of the new program year. This information can be sent by mail, email, or sent home in a packet. Forms are updated annually, so please make sure you're using the most current version of those forms. You are allowed to add your school contact information and fill in all the fillable portions of the form. And like I said, add those programs that are specific to your school on Attachment L. We just ask that you don't edit the actual content of these forms. Finally, school districts cannot require a household to complete an online meal applications. Households must have the option of completing a paper application. And hard copies of all these forms are located in the Bookkeeper handout packet that you received today. USDA's free and reduced price meal application is also available in a variety of different languages. And Nutrition Services has Spanish translations of a number of our forms available at the website location listed here on this slide. Next slide. To find these forms that we just talked about on our website, you will go to the School Meals program and then click on Forms and Resources. You can then find them by clicking on Application in income eligibility, and that will take you to attachments A through L. Word versions of the forms are available so that you can insert your school's information and the date, etc. And a screenshot of where to find these forms is included in your handout packet. Next slide. On that same web page that I just showed you in the previous slide, if you scroll down past attachments A through L on the website, you can find the SSO letters for SFAs operating SSO in school year 21-22, and the SSO public notification, which I talked about earlier in this presentation. You don't have this slide in your handouts as our website was just recently added to add this information, but it's on that same web page under attachments A through L. Next slide. So up next, let's discuss how households qualify for free or reduced price meals when submitting a free or reduced price meal application. Households are approved based on either income eligibility, in which students qualify for free or reduced price meals based on household size and income, or they can qualify by categorical eligibility with a meal application, in which students automatically qualify for free or reduced priced meals. And those would be either a migrant, runaway, foster, SNAP, FDPIR, or TANF. You may notice that Medicaid is not listed here, and that's because households are only categorically eligible for free or reduced price meals if receiving Medicaid, if they're matched through the direct certification system, which we'll talk about coming up here. Households cannot automatically qualify for free or reduced price meals by indicating Medicaid on their paper meal application. Next slide. So let's first talk about processing meal applications that qualify based on categorical eligibility. The first category we will talk about is processing an application with foster children. A foster child is defined as one whose care and placement is the responsibility of the state, or who is placed by a court with a caretaker household. This does not apply to informal arrangements that may exist outside of the court system. So when processing an application with foster children, keep in mind that foster children automatically qualify for free meals with no additional documentation required to confirm their eligibility. However, the eligibility of the other children in the household is based on household size and income, including any personal use income that the foster child receives. Therefore, go back one, please, Becky, thanks. Therefore, other children in the household may qualify for free meals or reduced price meals, or be denied meal benefits based on their household size and income. Foster payments received by the family for care of the child should not be included as income. Okay, next slide. Homeless, migrant, or runaway children automatically qualify for free meals as well. However, the district is required to have additional documentation on file. Acceptable documentation of this includes the district's direct certification list or information from a migrant coordinator or the district's homeless runaway liaison before certifying the child as eligible for free meals. As with foster children, the eligibility of other children in the household is based on household size and income. If a household qualifies for SNAP, which stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or TANF, the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families, or FDPIR, the Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, they must list their household's master case number. There is a single box on the application to report the number, and you will be looking for a 5 to 9 digit number. We typically see 6 digits, and if you see more than 6 digits, it's probably because the household is listing the zeros that precede their number. Households reporting a master case number automatically qualify for free meals. Processing an income application requires the use of Attachment A, the Income Eligibility Guidelines, which is located in your handout packet. This is the chart that the school uses to approve households for free or reduced price meals based on income. Income amounts are listed as annual, monthly, twice a month, every 2 weeks, or weekly for the free and reduced guidelines. Attachment A is not to be distributed to households. The income chart that appears on the second page of the household meal application are the reduced price guidelines. Households may qualify for free or reduced price meals if their income falls at or below the levels listed on the chart. Free and reduced price meal applications must be approved based on the information the household submits on the application. You do need to follow up if it's missing information or the information is vague, and then you can just document on the application the information that was received with the date and your initials. You have 10 operating days from the time that you receive the application to process it, and application approvals are valid for the entire school year. So even if the household situation changes, their approval remains the same. However, if a household contacts you and insists on paying, you must honor their request and make the change. Households may apply or reapply for benefits anytime during the school year. Applications can also be shared between school districts. If you receive an application from another school, it's your responsibility to ensure that the application has been correctly approved. We ask that you initial and date the application once you have reviewed it. Up next, we'll talk about the carryover of eligibility. In a normal school year, children who are free or reduced at the end of the previous school year begin the new school year with those same benefits. The prior year's eligibility is good for the first 30 school days or until the student's name either appears on the direct certification list or a new application is processed, whichever occurs first. In the letter to households attachment B, you can specify a shorter return date than the 30 school days to ensure the prompt return of applications. However, any free or reduced price students must be given until the 30th school day to turn in a new application. So you'll want to determine your district's 30th school day of operation, and then as that 30th school day approaches, we recommend contacting households that have not turned in a new application about 7 to 10 days before that deadline. Without a new application on file, the household goes to full pay on the 31st school day. As I mentioned earlier, we're still waiting for USDA guidance for school year 22-23, so there'll be more information to come on that and how you will do carryover for school year 22-23. The qualifying categories listed at the top of the slide automatically certify children for free meals. So all school districts have a homeless or runaway liaison on staff and a migrant coordinator who works with the school. If the district has a Head Start program, a list of all enrolled students must be kept on file. The documentation received from these groups certifies the child for free meals. With the direct certification list, these are the program qualifiers as they appear in the direct certification system. Those are SNAP, TANF, foster, migrant, and Medicaid free. The one exception to all students automatically qualifying for free meals is Medicaid. A household may qualify as either Medicaid free or Medicaid reduced, which is abbreviated as MRED on your direct certification list, depending on their income. So in an effort to increase access to the child nutrition programs and to streamline the eligibility process, All districts, both public and non-public, are required to directly certify categorically eligible children. If one child in the household qualifies for SNAP, TANF, FDPIR, Medicaid free, or Medicaid reduced, all other children in the household automatically qualify for these same benefits. The exception to this is foster, homeless, migrant, runaway, and Head Start children. These children qualify for free meals. However, the benefit does not extend to other household members. For categorical eligibility, if names are added to the direct certification list, you must be able to demonstrate that they reside in the same household. They don't have to be related, but they do need to live in the same household. And for the purposes of carryover into the new school year, categorical eligibility must be extended to newly enrolled siblings. You can access your direct certification list via the CMP system. You'll click on Applications and then click on Direct Certification / Direct Verification as highlighted here on this slide. This next picture shows what the direct certification system looks like when you log in. This is where you'll be able to access your direct certification list. You can look up students and view your possible match list. This screenshot, along with the link to the direct certification system, are located in your handout packet. Direct certification allows school districts to certify enrolled students as eligible for free or reduced price meals using verified data from other programs, and it eliminates the need for a meal application. In Nebraska, the process of direct certification has been a cooperative effort between the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services. The direct certification list is posted for schools each year on July 1st. This year, the correct data was matched on July 6th. And if you extended any benefits from the July 1st match, those students will remain for the 21-22 school year. So note that the DC match list that you access now for the remainder of school year 21-22 will have a list date of July 6th or later. The direct certification list is updated on a nightly basis. All schools are required to upload their student enrollment through the Nebraska Department of Education's portal. Public schools upload through Advisor, and non-public schools upload through the Person ID. Email notifications that a student match has occurred are sent to the district's authorized representative and claim contact. It is critical this information is shared with the person who is responsible for approving students for meal benefits. For assistance uploading your enrollment, you can contact the NDE Help Desk at the email address listed here on this slide. This next slide shows an example of the direct certification list. After clicking on the green match list tile in the direct certification system, you will see a list of students. You can enter a beginning search date of 7/1/2021 and then click on Search All Dates, and your list of directly certified students for school year 21-22 will appear on the screen. Once again, just a reminder, your first list date moving forward for this school year will be July 6th. So that'll be the first list date that you see on your direct certification list. You can sort your list by each of the column headings by clicking on the column title. So for example, if you sort by date, you can see those students that were most recently added to your list. Or if you click on last name, you could sort your list alphabetically by student last name. Let's go through the column headings here. The list date is the date that the student matched to the DHHS database and appeared on your direct certification list. The qualify header shows the qualifying programs or how the student is being approved for free or reduced price meals. You can see the students in this example are approved based on SNAP, foster, and Medicaid free. Student last name, first name, gender, and date of birth are pretty self-explanatory, and the remaining information, such as the school and the NDE student IDs, are pulled from the information you have uploaded to Advisor. Once you have your list sorted how you want it, you can export the list to an Excel file or print your list for your school records. It is advisable to periodically save or print your list as new student matches are added. A list of all the qualifying programs can be found under the Maintenance tab in the DC system. Here you can find the abbreviation along with the full description of the program. This list of qualifying programs is also included in your handout packet for a quick reference as well. With direct certification, the approval date for the benefits is the date the student's name appears on the list. That date can be found in the first column titled List Date when looking at the district's direct certification list. Households directly certified for free meals do not need to submit a free or reduced priced meal application. Direct certification takes precedence over a household application. So for example, if a household applied with a meal application and was approved for free meals, but their child also qualifies for free meals on the direct certification list, the child must be approved for free meals based on the direct certification list, and the method of approval must be changed from an application to directly certified. The household's application must be pulled and filed separately because this household is no longer subject to verification. The exception to direct certification taking precedence over an application is if a student on the direct certification list is listed as Medicaid reduced. In this case, the household has the right to complete a meal application if they think they may qualify for free meals based on household size and income, and then the family would be honored the greater benefit. Notify households of approval using Attachment D, the Notice of Approval or Denial Letter. The school district must keep their direct certification up to date, as we talked about. School districts must have a printed list of the names on file to document each student's eligibility. Districts can share direct certification eligibility if a child transfers to another school. To share eligibility when a student transfers, the school can either send a copy of the student's approval letter or notify the other school in writing on school letterhead. So to learn, that was just an overview of the direct certification. I know that was a lot of information, but there's a lot more to learn about the direct certification system. So to learn more about that, we do have a training available on our website, and the link to that can be found here on this slide. So up next, we're going to go through some different examples of approving a meal application. This is just an overview and will likely be a review for those of you that are experienced bookkeepers and are experienced in approving free and a reduced application. But we felt it was important for all those new bookkeepers we have out there on today's training. But before we do that, let's do a quick review of how households qualify for free or reduced price meals with an application. Households can complete an application with foster, homeless, migrant, or runaway children, or households listing a master case number with SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR are categorically eligible for free meals. For households listing income on their application, depending on the household size and income, the family may qualify for free or reduced price meals, or they may be denied meal benefits if their income exceeds the income guidelines. So the next 7 application examples can be found in your handout packet. You may follow along with the handouts, and you will also need to have out Attachment A, the income guidelines, which is on page 56 of the electronic PDF handout packet if you're following along on your computer. Our first example is on page 59 of the handout packet and involves a master case number. When reviewing applications, you need to make sure that all sections of the application are completed properly and that all information is included before the application can be approved. A complete application with a master case number will include the student's name, the household's master case number for SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR, and a signature of the adult. If we look at this example, we have Justin Brown listed at the top in the red box. In part 2, the master case number has been entered in the yellow box. And in part 4, Sue Brown has signed the application as shown in the blue box. She's not required to list the last 4 digits of her Social Security number or check the no Social Security number box. In part 2 of the application for the master case number, do not accept any of the following as a master case number. Do not accept an individual's Social Security number. Do not accept a Medicaid number. Remember, the only way that households are approved for benefits with Medicaid is through the district's direct certification list. And do not accept an EBT number. EBT stands for Electronic Benefits Transfer. This is the card used to purchase food for SNAP. If any of these 3 numbers are reported as a master case number and you approve them as free meals, this would result as an error during an administrative review. But now that we have the direct certification system, the number of applications that a district receives with a master case number has been greatly reduced. So you may not see this all that often. The school district is responsible for completing the bottom portion of each application. The determining official is the person responsible for approving students for meal benefits. The determining official must sign and date each application. Take a look at the bottom portion of this application. With a master case number, Justin automatically qualifies for free meals, so the boxes for free, categorically eligible, and SNAP, TANF, and FDPIR have all been marked. The determining official, Mary Nelson, has signed and dated the application. Once the application has been reviewed, every household that applies must be notified in writing of the results. The Notice of Approval or Denial Letter, which is Attachment D, can be used to notify all households who applied with either a meal if they applied with either a meal application or if they're directly certified. This year, we've also made available the Sso Approval Letter Attachment D, which once again includes that meal charge amount of $0 to reflect no-cost meals through SSO. And a Spanish version of this is also available on the NDE website. An example of Attachment D is shown on the right of the screen, and a hard copy is also included in your handout packet. On our next example, it involves an income application in which a single frequency of pay has been reported. A complete income application includes the student names, the names of all household members, and the current income for each person listed. A complete application also includes the signature of an adult and the last 4 digits of a Social Security number, or that they've checked the box for no Social Security number. So if you take a look at our example, the children's names have been listed here at the top in the red colored box. In part 3, the household members have been listed in the yellow box, and the total household reported as 5. Income has been listed for John Wright and Mary Wright in the green box, and Mary has signed the application and listed the last 4 digits of her Social Security number. Households can report their income in any increment, so they can report it as weekly pay, bi-weekly, every other week, monthly, or annual. If a household reports a single frequency of income, so let's say they report all their income as weekly, no conversion is required. If you drop down to the bottom portion of the application, we have a household size of 5 and their total income is $2,500 per month. If you look at the income guideline chart, locate a household size of 5 in the first column and slide across to the monthly income. You will see that the right family qualifies for free meals because their income is at or below the amount listed under free meals on the chart. In this example, the determining official then signed and dated the application. In example 3, we have an income application in which multiple frequencies of pay have been reported. The information listed on this slide is required to be completed on the application before it can be approved. The children have been listed at the top of the application in the red box. In part 3, all household members have been listed in the yellow box. And in the green box, you can see Mary Smith reports $1,200 per month, but she also earns $100 a week at a second job. George Smith has reported $10,000 per year. George has also signed the application and reported the last 4 digits of his Social Security number. So if multiple frequencies of income are reported, like in this example, you will need to convert all income to an annual amount. So you can do that by taking a monthly income times 12, weekly income times 52, because there's 52 weeks in a year, or every 2 weeks times 26, and twice per month times 24. In approving this application, we have a household size of 4. However, we must determine the household's total income. So for Mary Smith, we must convert her 2 sources of income to annual by taking the monthly income times 12 and the weekly income times 52. And then we combine that with George Smith's income to give us a total of $29,600. If we go back to the income guideline chart, you drop down to the household size of 4, we see that the annual income of $29,600 qualifies this household for free meals. The determining official has signed and dated the application. And I've also highlighted here in the red box that this is where you can find the income conversions that I mentioned on the previous slide when you are converting multiple frequencies to annual income. So let's discuss how to calculate income for self-employed individuals. We'll use George Smith from our last example as an example of a self-employed individual. On this form, we are reporting income from specific lines from the first page of the 1040 tax return and Schedule 1. Losses are subtracted to determine the total income. If the total adds up to be a negative number, then it must be reported as 0 on the application under the last column labeled All Other Income. 0 income requires no follow-up on the part of the school. So if we take a look at our example, we have a business income of $25,000 and a farm loss of $15,000. Therefore, the total income for George Smith is $10,000. If you're in your handout packet, we've also included a sample of the first page of a 1040 tax return and a Schedule 1, so you can see where these numbers are coming from. When reviewing a tax return, income reported under wages, salaries, and tips, or adjusted gross income cannot be used to determine a household's income. The next example is an application with no income. Families can report 0 income, and the application can be approved for free meals for the rest of the school year. If a family is withdrawing money from their savings each month or receiving help from others, that amount can be listed on the application as their source of income, and the household can then be approved based on the amount reported. In looking at this example, we have Ben Jones listed at the top of the application, and in part 3, we have Sarah and Ben listed as household members with no income reported. She has signed the application and reported the last 4 digits of her Social Security number. In the bottom portion of the application, the household size is listed as 2, the total income is listed as 0, and Ben qualifies for free meals based on household size and income. No additional follow-up with this household is required, and the determining official can sign and date the application. The next 3 examples involve approving applications with foster children. If you have an application that involves a foster child only, a complete application includes the student's name, the box marked for each foster child as demonstrated here in the yellow box, and the signature of the adult. The last 4 digits of the Social Security number or the box are not required. Remember that foster children automatically qualify for free meals. With this application, Jessie automatically qualifies for free meals. The categorical eligible and foster child boxes have been marked, and the determining official has signed and dated the application. Example 6 is an income application which lists both foster and non-foster children. So the complete application includes the student's names, and a box is checked for each foster child, and the current income is listed for each person, which includes any personal use income the foster child receives. As a reminder, personal use income is not the payment that a household receives for a foster child. A complete application also requires the signature of the adult and the last 4 digits of a Social Security number or the box marked no Social Security number. Foster children automatically qualify for free meals. However, that benefit does not automatically extend to the other children in the household. So to approve this application, we have a household size of 5, and their total income is $1,200 every 2 weeks. If we go back to the income guideline chart for a household of 5, slide across to every 2 weeks, and you'll see that all children in the household would qualify for free meals. In the bottom portion of the application, the free box has been marked. The income and categorically eligible boxes have also been marked, including the foster child box. The determining official has signed and dated this application. Finally, in our last example, we have an income application listing both foster and non-foster children again. But in this example, the children's names have been listed at the top of the application. Kristen Thomas is the foster child living with this family. And in part 3, all household members have been listed and income has been reported for Steve and Debbie Matthews. Steve Matthews signed the application and reported the last 4 digits of his Social Security number. To approve this application, we have a household size of 6, and their total income is $4,200 a month. If we look at the income guideline chart for a household of 6, $4,200 per month exceeds the amount to qualify for free meals. But if you continue to slide across to the reduced price section, this household does qualify for reduced price meals. Kristen, the foster child, automatically qualifies for free meals, and the 3 Matthews children qualify for reduced priced meals. So if you look at the bottom part of this application, you can see how we reported the results. You can have more than one eligibility determination on a single application. The application was signed and dated by the determining official. And just to know, if you receive an application for a homeless, migrant, or runaway child, the approval process is similar to that of these foster child examples that we just went through, with one major difference. The only way that homeless, migrant, or runaway children can be approved as categorically eligible is if the district has documentation on file from their migrant coordinator or their homeless or runaway liaison certifying their eligibility. Remember, if there are other children in the household, the benefit does not automatically extend to them. They will be approved for benefits based on their household size and income. Up next, I'm going to turn it over to Sean here to talk about the process of verification.
Thank you, Erica. The chat box has been busy, and we appreciate all of the questions that you are asking. And do know that if we have not answered your question yet, there will be time after this short piece to address your questions. And so I want to finish up talking about the process of verification. Verification is the confirmation of eligibility for free and reduced price meals. And it is a requirement of the program, and it is required for the upcoming school year 21-22. Now, the process of verification, the information about the process can be found on our website under Forms and Resources, and you would click on Applications Verification, and there is a great piece of information that's available for you, and it's called Reviewing the Basics of Verification. And also I would direct your attention to how to complete the verification report. These are two important sections on our website that will be very valuable to you as we talk about verification and what you need to do on your end. So start by reviewing those, and let's move on to the next slide. What are the steps in verification? Now, I've already told you it is verifying what a household has put on their income eligibility application. And you may be asking, well, do I have to verify every application? And the answer is no. The process starts with the number of applications on file as of October 1st. So the number of paper applications that have been approved for free and reduced priced benefits as of October 1st. That is your pool. And from that pool, normally a school would select a 3% random sample size. So for example, if you have 10 applications, you would multiply that by 0.03, and that would, the answer would be 0.3, and you always need to round up when we're talking the number of applications. And so in this case, I'd round up and it would be one application I would be required to review, and I would randomly select that application for review. So let's say my number is 1.2. I would need to verify 2 applications. So just that's how you determine your sample size. And then once you have randomly selected the application, then you would utilize the forms available on our website under the verification. And that would be the selection letter, where you would notify the household that they have been selected to submit information to substantiate what they put on their application. You are required to notify the household an additional time if they have not responded to your request for information. And we highly encourage you to get the information from the household. So make your efforts to obtain that information. And then based on the information the household would submit, then you make your determination if what the household originally put on their application, based on the documentation they have submitted, is correct. And if it is not correct, then a new eligibility determination needs to take place. And I'm going to have you go back, Becky, to the last slide. And so we have the results of verification letter where you notify the household. And then the next step is submitting the information for verification, the results of verification, on the online report, which is found in the CMP system. There is also information on the website on how to complete that report. And as we've already mentioned, at that time, the civil rights summary is completed with verification, and that is completed on site. That is a form that's not submitted to our office. It's kept on site. And also on this web page, you will find a tracker form, which is an optional tool to use for tracking verification, because you've notified the household maybe didn't respond. You give the household a second reminder and you want to track that date. And then you also, if the household does not respond, then you need to provide the household with 10 days change in benefit notice. So it's a process, and it all begins October 1st and it needs to end by November 15th. So it's a short amount of time, and we want to make sure everybody's aware that the process, and if you just go to the next slide, that'd be super. So as I said, the process needs to be completed by November 15th. And the verification report, as I said, was found under applications on the CMP website. And the report, then once you click on that, the report opens up, and that's where you enter your information to complete the verification process. So I would refer you back to the basics. It covers the process of verification very well. And we are now on our last slide, which is it's time for questions and answers. And we're here to address your questions. Many of those have been asked in the chat box already, and I appreciate that. We've had a chance to answer your questions throughout the presentation, but I'm going to ask that Erica and Donna maybe take a look at the chat box and see if we've missed anything. Or please feel free to unmute your microphones.
How much time do we get credit for today's education?
3 hours.
Thank you.
From 9 to 12, we are scheduled, and we're done just a little bit early, but we have plenty of time for questions that you may have. And I see a question, the last question that came in is, what is the current recommendation?
Sean, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. I don't know how long I was muted. Forgive me. So I guess
Just when you started to read the question, so.
Thank you. Something's weird out there. She's lost her internet, and all of a sudden I became muted. But the last question that came in is, what is the current recommendation for self-serve salad bars? And I would ask that you can consult with your local county health department, because we have found that recommendations from those health departments vary based on what's happening with COVID. And now that we've had a little bit of an uptick in reported COVID cases, I would just ask that you consult with your local health department. And then the next question that came in, do we have all families fill out an application? You cannot require a household to complete an application. You need to make the application available to households, but it is up to the household to complete the application.
Don, we have a question from Stephanie. Do you include applications of students that are on our DC list when finding the number of apps to verify?
Oh, no. DC, that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. Let's clarify. Students that are on the direct certification list are already automatically verified to receive benefits. They are not included in your pool for verification. Your pool for verification is only the number of paper applications that households have submitted and that you have approved. If a student is on your direct cert list, the household does not need to receive an application unless it's a foster student where that eligibility is tied to just that student.
Here's another one. If a child suffered the loss of a parent, are they automatically free?
No, that is not a qualifier for eligibility. Eligibility for the program is participation in a direct certification program such as SNAP, the Medicaid Free Reduced, TANF, if they're migrant, runaway, homeless, and then the other process of being eligible for the program is household size and income. And so that student's eligibility would be based on, if they're not directly certified, would be based on household size and income.
I think this is in regards to verification. Do families have 10 business days or 10 school days to respond?
So you notify the household of 10. So the date that the letter is sent is the start of the 10 calendar day notification that their benefit is changing. So when we're talking about a reduction in benefits, it's 10 calendar days that the household receives.
I'm trying to find a question from Lynn that I don't believe was answered, but she was asking why was a homeless and migrant were put on the application if that has to be verified by a liaison.
It would have to be verified. If it's on a paper application and the household has indicated migrant status, then and they're selected for verification, you would have to have proof that that household is eligible for that status.
Okay.
Here's one, and this question, Erica answered this question because I know it came up with what's an acceptable number if a household puts that they're eligible for SNAP. What's an acceptable number? And Erica responded that it's a 5 to 9 digit number is acceptable. And you take the application on face value of what the household submits. Now, anything that looks questionable, perhaps maybe it's a 16 digit number, that's a red flag that that's an EBT number. And that is not acceptable for SNAP. So you are looking for a 5 to 9 digit number.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have already printed attachment B and C for our student packets for the first day of school. And I printed those before the updated ones came out with that show the $0 for the cost of meals. Do I need to reprint all those?
Well, that's a great question. You will want to make sure you have the cover letter, okay, that came out in Friday's email from Katie Parch, because that explains what's happening for school year 21-22 and why households need to complete applications, why it's important for them to do this. So, and that cover letter, you can certainly modify. the cover letter is just the explanation. You can't change the household letter and those other attachments, but you can modify the cover letter. And on that cover letter is where maybe I would indicate that, you know, we're already telling households that meals will be provided free of charge. Just maybe if you wanted to add any more information, or just make sure you have your cover letter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Any other questions that are jumping out in the chat box that we haven't answered? Please feel free to unmute.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is Leanne with Centura Public Schools. And I had a parent fill out an application that they made $1,400 a month and then cross it out. And underneath they wrote 15,000 and then nothing in the box beside it. Like it didn't say monthly or yearly. So I did call the parent and she did tell me that after talking to her husband, it should have been 1,500 a month instead of 1,400, but she'd accidentally written down 15,000. And I wondered, do I need to have her redo the application or what should I do?
Oh, that is such a great question. And we all know those things happen with applications, and you are required to follow up on questionable information. So you did exactly what you were supposed to. You contacted the household. And so now right on the application, I would document, talk to household, whoever in the household, list their name on this date. This is what the household informed me, and then initial off and date. Because you've got the application. You followed up on questionable information. You got the clarification you needed. And so the household does not need to resubmit an application. You have now indicated on the application the piece that you needed clarification for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dawn, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Lynn.
You know who this is. Hey, my question about the application referred to slide 72, where there was a reference talking about if they check the box on a paper application that the student is homeless or migrant. It says that additional documentation is required. That's confusing to me because if as a school, we're already collecting those lists from our liaisons, why would we put it on the application if the parent, it seems like a duplicate step that's already in place. And if you can't use the parent's information as standalone, like income, I'm not sure I'm articulating my question. Do you get what I'm asking?
Great. Yeah, you're doing great. So your migrant liaison is providing you a list, okay? And we know those students are eligible for free meals based on a list that has been provided by your migrant, a dated list that has been provided by your migrant liaison. Now you have a household that completes an application and they indicate migrant status on the application, correct?
Correct.
And then the student is not on the migrant list?
Well, if I'm understanding correctly, you guys are saying even though it's added on the application, you cannot process that application. You basically have to confirm that they're on the list that you've already processed, which makes them directly certified. So you wouldn't be processing an application anyway. Right?
As the school, I would check with the migrant liaison to see if they were missed on the list.
I just want to jump in here.
Please.
With those check boxes, I mean, how do we know that they're indicating homeless or if they're indicating migrant? I mean, I realize, a name can be kind of an indicator, but, certainly I'm with Lynn, but just my thoughts.
I'm going to ask my team to weigh in on this piece.
So if they've filled out an application and they've marked homeless, migrant, or liaison, then you're just double checking that against your list or verifying with your homeless, migrant liaison that they do in fact qualify based that way.
Well, we get a list from our liaison every time there's a new person added. So I guess our view was that it doesn't need to be on the application, because if you can't use it and you're already getting your lists as new names appear, there isn't really any point to put it on there. It kind of leads the family to think that, oh, this is going to qualify me, when yet on the back end,
You still
we've
have to
already
verify
worked with
it.
those offices. Yeah, but
Yeah.
but if you're already working with those offices and getting those names as they become available.
Okay, yeah, I think that's something we'll have to, yeah, I think that's something we'll have to think about. And look at,
Yeah.
What the USDA requires to be on the application, so.
Yeah, because what's on our application is required by USDA.
Didn't that happen a couple of years ago when USDA said you need to have those on your application?
I just know that whatever USDA releases as a prototype, our application mimics that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding, if someone marks the homeless, migrant, runaway, and we don't see them on the list that was provided, we still reach out to our liaison. If they say no, they're not qualified or eligible, then we deny the application and give the reason that they, were not verified by the liaison. Is that what the process?
I think that's what the procedure I would follow, Erin. Not every district has that maybe as timely as updated lists from their liaison. And so I think that's definitely a starting point, is if a family thinks they have migrant status, indicates it on an application, then we do need to check with the liaison to see if they have been added to the list.
Whatever it is.
Now, any other feedback from Lynn or Erin on that? Or any other school district?
I didn't mean to use up so much time on that, and it probably isn't likely to happen much. I was also just thinking about, we have an online application too. So I will quit asking questions about that. Thanks for your patience.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And it was one that we are going to have to look into more. So what else do you have for us? Anything coming up in the chat box?
I just have one question, then I'll jump off, related to verification. When you refer to the October 1st date, are we pulling data on October 1st? So essentially that's through September 30th, or are we pulling data on October 2nd so that any updates to family statuses made on October 1st would be included in that data?
I would pull data on October 2nd because you're pulling information as of October 1st.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. That was a great question.
Sean, someone has asked, Sarah, we start school in August, so what waiver do we use to be able to get the SSO rate for the month of August? And I believe there have been a couple of other questions that I think maybe are referring to the fact that the waiver overlap from in September or August. The summer waiver overlap with the school year overlap waiver.
Any meals that are claimed during your summer food service program, which will end when school starts, if you're offering meals this summer, you will claim those meals under the summer food service program. So potentially, if you are serving students through the summer food service program into August, then you will submit a claim for reimbursement for the summer food service program. And then when school starts in August, you will, based on completion of your school meals application, you will be participating in the seamless summer option. And those meals claimed after the start of school will be claimed under the seamless summer option, which is part of the school meals application. So you will no longer be in the summer food service program. You will be operating under the school meals program with the seamless summer option. So it will require that claims be submitted for the summer food service program because you operated in that program. And then at the end of the month, when you're operating the seamless summer option, that claim will also need to be submitted for August under the school meals program.
So this is Sarah.
Sure.
We did not do any summer meals
Fine, great.
the last day of school. So therefore, when school does start in August, even though maybe we don't have an okay due to, being late with the application, etc., we'll be okay then to do SSO when school starts.
That is correct, Sarah.
Okay.
Because of the delay in getting the application, because of the addition of the seamless summer option, we ask that once that's released the beginning of August, you complete the application. It will take our office a while to go through all of the applications.
Correct.
And you will still be able to claim those meals under the seamless summer option. Our goal will be to get those approved by the beginning of September when schools submit the claim for reimbursement.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
You bet. Well, we're right at 12, but we can certainly stay on a few more minutes for those of you that would like to ask questions. We really thank you for your participation today. You've been great, and we appreciate all of your questions. It's been a lot of information jammed into 3 hours, but please feel free to reach out to any of us. You know how to contact us because we showed you our contact information sheet on our website. You can certainly email or call with any questions you have. And just once again, thank you. And we look forward to a wonderful start of the new school year. So we'll stay on if you have any questions, but if you would like, you can certainly jump off.
I do have one question.
Sean.
Sure.
We did not have a person come and do our safety inspections at all for the 2021 school year. So how does that report or go on the reporting?
0, and you're not responsible for that. You can report 0, 1, or 2. You are supposed to have 2 health inspections in a school year, but if you did not, that is not your responsibility. That's
I'm not required to call them, and I'm not required to call them, and
you are not required to. You are just reporting a number, either 0, 1, or 2.
Thank you very much.
And our health departments were overworked this last year.
I know they were. Yes. Thank you.
So it's probably a lot of schools didn't have their health inspections.
Okay, Sean, I have a question. This is Penny.
Hi, Penny.
Hi. Okay, get this right. It's kind of like what that other lady was talking about. Okay, we never do the summer program at our school.
Sure.
And So if I go to the SSO, then all I do is like fill out the application, and that's okay to do that even though you don't do the summer program.
Exactly.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have moved, we are not going to be participating in the summer program once school starts. We will be participating in the school meals program with the option of doing traditional school meals or the seamless summer option. And you will indicate that on your application.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. I see we have. Oh,
Can I
hi
ask a
there.
quick question?
Sure, of
Hi.
course.
I was just wondering, we get I think we're considered a vended school because our food is all prepared off-site, and then they bring it to us, and then we just keep it at temperature and serve it. You know, sometimes we, put things together, but we're not, creating the food. So are we considered a vended site? And I'm asking because of the training, because I'm considered the director of the lunch program. So I don't know if I need the how many hours of training I need a year. If
You would be considered a vended program. And
okay.
Donna, can you speak to what those requirements are?
Sure.
You guys talk. Yeah, I wrote it down because there's quite a difference in being the director,
So you said once again that you get your food is prepared and delivered to the school from another school, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and it depends upon how many hours a week you work, but if you work 20 or more hours a week, you would need 6 hours of training, and 4 if you work less than 20 hours per week. And also we have on that handout, the professional standards handout from our office, we have some specific training that is required for vended staff, and a lot of it has to do with food safety.
Okay.
So
looking at
the handout. Yeah, basically look that over. And then if you have any questions, you can let me know.
And then is it because I'm assuming that's like 6 hours a year. Should I kind of start over now that the school year has started July 1st? Like this would be my first hours of training?
Yeah, the school year runs from July 1st to June 30th of the next year. So yes, any training that you receive from now until June 30th, 2022, you can count.
Okay, and my staff as well. So my staff, I need them to they would need 4 hours. They would need the 4 hours of training.
If they work less than 20 hours, and don't forget civil rights training, that's mandatory for all of you.
Because we just did some training at the end of the school year, but that was for last year then, and now I'll start new with July 1st, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have one more quick question.
Sure, Ruth.
For the household applications and the cover letter, do we physically have to send those home at the beginning of the year, or can they just be in a public notification?
Households have to receive
a hard copy or
the household letter and how to get the application. I think most schools just send the packet home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
You bet. I see a question that came in. You don't really need the application to put them on free, do you? And I want to clarify that students are receiving meals free of charge. And that is the terminology that USDA wants us to use. It is not based on a student's eligibility status, paid, free, or reduced. Under the waiver, they are able to receive meals free of charge. So it's really two separate things. That eligibility is paid, free, and reduced. And although students are receiving free meals, that does not mean that they're eligible for free meals. So there is a big difference in that terminology. So the question is, you don't really need the application to put them on free, do you? Well, the meals are free of charge. That does not mean the student is eligible for free meals.
Can I ask another quick question?
Of course.
Okay, real quick, because this happened last year, because all of the students were getting the free of charge meals. We had families that they were only buying milk, and so then we were charging them for the milk, and they have quite an outstanding bill. And I'm thinking, I don't know, and I don't have to take up everybody's time now, but is there an option? It looked like there was some kind of a free milk option where they could get.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's reimbursement for a meal. There is no reimbursement if the student only takes milk.
The milk.
The student would be charged for that milk if they turn down the meal. They can take the whole meal and only drink the milk.
Yeah.
But
there's no program. There's no
program that is just the free milk for students that already have access to breakfast and or lunch.
Because I noticed this is just my second year, really. So first year of doing this. And I noticed as I was going through that some of the kids, if some of the kids where it was reduced, it had a number already programmed in there for reduced milk. And I thought that was weird.
And I don't know, there is no reduced milk.
That shouldn't be,
right. Unless you have do you have a preschool where kids don't have access to breakfast and or lunch at your school?
We do, but those weren't the kids that were coming up. I noticed, and I don't know how those numbers necessarily were put in there because I didn't know if there was some kind of program. So, okay, I think I understand now.
Yeah, if they have access to breakfast and lunch there, and they turn down the meal and only want milk, then they need to be charged a la carte for that.
Right. Okay.
And for your outstanding balances, that's the importance of having a charge policy. Okay. And the charge policy spells out, what your district's or what your school's charge policy is, which could include, that if you don't have money in your account, then you can't purchase a la carte.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
You bet.
Okay, my turn.
Okay.
This is Paula Wagner. I have a question on the financial report that we have to send in. The last 2 years in a row on my thing, they say pending. So whenever I go to do the report, the number from my balance last year does not carry over. So when I put all the numbers in, it's a big mess. And that hasn't been fixed yet. And I have talked to somebody from financial, but nothing's been fixed.
Paula, thank you. Paula's with St. John's, and we will make here in Lincoln, and we will make note of that because I can see where that would be an issue because it needs to be approved for it to roll over with the opening balance for the next year. So thank you for bringing that up, and we certainly will look into that one.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking through the chat box again, if there's anything that we didn't address. Amanda says we are a small parochial school that just serves lunch only. And unfortunately, they missed the beginning of the presentation. Are we able to qualify for SSO? Of course you are. It's open to all schools, the option to participate in the SSO program, SSO option under the school meals program. So yes, you're eligible just like all of our SFAs are. Anything else that we need to talk about before we end our presentation today? We still have 84 faithful Zoom members with us. We'll give you a minute to think of your questions that you've been burning to ask, but have not. And then we'll end our presentation today. Please unmute. Well,
I think there was a question about, do we need to count disability income for their monthly income to be qualified? And page 26 of the eligibility manual says private pensions or disability benefits are included as income.
for those faithful people that have stayed with us, if you do not use the income eligibility manual as your resource go-to, I highly suggest that you take a look at the manual, because about every situation is explained in the manual, as well as the process of verification, carryover. It's a great resource that needs to be definitely bookmarked so that you are utilizing it to its fullest, because I've got to tell you, we get a lot of calls in our office, and that is our go-to with the answers.
Gail has a question. Is the Social Security number required on paper applications, or can a parent choose to mark the no box if they do not wish to share?
And that is true. They can mark the no box if they do not wish to share.
You can accept it based on face value if they mark the no Social Security box. Yeah.
Right.